Hello, I'm Irina Baker. Welcome to the podcast I Am a Woman of Power, inspiring stories and practical tips on overcoming challenges by going within and connecting with your divine power. In addition, every interview has a complimentary companion podcast practice at radiantmastery.com/practice. I'm here with Stephanie Fraysur, who's been my very long-term good friend and just amazing woman who I highly admire and love. And so she's here with me, and she's going to talk about a topic that I believe every woman needs to listen to and really pay attention because it's of vital importance. Having said that, I would like to introduce Steph. Stephanie is a mother of three grown children. She is an advanced logistics specialist and she owns her beauty line business. Hi, Steph.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for graciously agreeing to this interview, and I am really delighted to have you here. What has been a challenge for you that you would like to talk about today?
Okay, so it's a tough one. I had to really think about this, and the first thing that really came to mind, I didn't want to talk about, and I kept coming back to it. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest and raw and real.
You were listening to your inner self, right?
Yes.
About the topic. So it was suggested by divine guidance, I believe.
Yes. So the one thing that I have struggled with, that I've teeter-tottered with pretty much my whole life, is I've always been starved for attention. Since I was little, I felt like I had to compete with my sister. Whenever I was in school, I felt like I had to compete with my friends. Whenever I was married, I felt like I had to compete with the Navy and this and that. And then until recently, I just felt like I had to compete basically with everybody. But really the competition was me. I was getting in my own way.
What was the behavior that you displayed that would show the symptoms of that you felt inside? Because you were not aware at that time, right? You just displayed some particular behavior. What was it?
Right. So a lot of the time, and again, this is a hard pill to swallow, but a lot of the times the way that I dressed, I didn't realize what I was looking for was attention, and it wasn't necessarily good attention. I would dress a little revealing, and the things that I would say, it was more about shock and awe rather than having a deep, intelligent conversation. I just wanted to shock people because I knew that I would get a reaction. They would either think I was funny or think I was a certain way, or I just wanted to stand out, but for the wrong reasons. I don't think my intentions were always in the right place whenever I was seeking out that attention.
A long time ago, I remember you used to say, what was your very famous signature phrase that you always used?
I'm awesome. Yep, I said it. It's really funny that you bring it up because I had a friend kind of get in my face about it. She told me, she was kind of mocking me one day, and she kept saying, "That's awesome. That's awesome. You're awesome. I'm awesome. I'm so awesome." And it kind of like irritated me a little bit. And then she told me, she's like, "Are you trying to convince yourself or me?" She said, "Because I feel like you're trying to convince yourself. I already know that you're awesome. I don't need you to constantly tell me." And I went home that night and I really thought about it, and I was like, wow, that was brutal, but true. Like I didn't believe that I was. I just wanted to be. So I was trying to convince myself, and I felt like if I said it to enough people that they would believe it.
Any more symptoms or any more behavior signs that you've displayed? Anything else you've been doing?
I guess like really all my life I've been trying to do it. A lot of the times my ego would get in the way. And as I'm growing, I'm learning that I kind of have to check myself and take a step back. But a lot of it, like I was just seeking out attention from anybody, and especially men. Like, it's hard to say, but I really wanted men's attention. But it wasn't for the right reasons, and it definitely wasn't for the right men.
I am sure you didn't know how to deal with it. You just knew that that's inside there was a feeling of some sort, right? That kept pushing you to find that attention outside. So, of course, what do women do first? They seek attention of men because they think if I'm loved by men, then I am worthy of love, right? I'm
Right.
worthy of something good and it feels good. So that's like a temporary fix because
Yes.
it's never enough.
Yes. And a lot of the times, I know for me personally, I felt like if I could get someone to spend time with me, or even more, I would feel loved for that moment. But later on, I would feel so empty. And it took years of going through the same motions until I really paid attention to how I was actually feeling and what I
How
was
were you
doing.
actually feeling? Let's stay there for now. How were you actually feeling during that time? Was it what? How do you call that feeling?
I I think the best way to describe it is I felt unloved or unlovable. I didn't believe that I was worth being loved the way a woman, a queen, is supposed to be treated. Um, I would get the attention, but it was the wrong kind. And then I would get mad because I dressed this way, I acted this way, and then I got this way. But instead of changing my behavior and taking full responsibility, I was expecting a different outcome for doing this, when if I would have just shifted gears and tried a different approach, I would have attracted different attention, and I would not have been attracting this. But while I was attracting this, I would get so mad because I'm like, why do they think I deserve that? It wasn't them, it was me. I thought I deserved it. So I would get this negative energy, this negative attention, and I would get so upset because they were being ugly or rude or just plain nasty. And I was putting it out there that that's what I deserved. It wasn't them, it was me. I was the common denominator.
Exactly. And we will get to that point. You said, in my opinion, brilliant words. And we will get to the point when you realize that. So far, I'm trying to stay in the unaware state to get, no, perfect. You said everything perfectly. I just want to go deep, a little bit deeper, because I want women who are watching and listening this interview to really see that if there is a correlation, do they behave this way? Do they feel this way? So we need to uncover how you felt, how you dressed, how you this and that. So that's why we're doing it. So at that time, you were absolutely unaware. So what you were trying to do is you thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you thought it was just a man, so I can get rid of that man and find the new one, and the new one will for sure treat me so well. And
Yep.
then what happened?
Well, it took me years and years and years to realize that until I got to the root of my problem, my issue, whatever you want to call it, I was going to keep attracting the same situation, the same energy over and over.
And the same type of men, right?
Yes, exactly. Then I always, whenever I'm telling like my story, I always tell people the faces changed and the names changed, but the situation was the same over and over. And it was like a broken record. And I think those are actually your words. I can remember at one point we were discussing it, and it just really resonated in my heart that I was the common denominator. It had nothing to do with the people around me, because once you change yourself, you change your situation.
That's right. That's right. Was there a moment when you suddenly realized that you were the common denominator, not men or circumstances, or was it just gradual realization?
I think it was gradual, but it got very intense towards the end, because I was opening up my heart and being open-minded, open-hearted, and just being true to myself, like being brutally honest and taking 100% responsibility of my life, of my happiness. It was my choice. I was feeling kind of lost. And I remember one day I had shut off my radio and I was just driving, and I got this feeling, like this pull at my heart, that I needed to do and say all the right things. Like, I know I'm not perfect, but there was a lot of things that I wasn't doing in my life that was right. But something told me in my gut, in my heart, in my head, all at the same time, that I needed to start changing. I needed to start doing what was right. And really, really listening to that little angel on my shoulder, that voice in my head, like I needed to be true and quit ignoring it, because I already knew what I needed to do. The answers were deep down inside of me. I was just ignoring them.
Let me make a correction. Was it a voice in your head, or was it a voice in your heart?
More in my heart.
That's right. Because when it's in the head, it's usually the ego's voice. And
right.
The ego's voice wanted to continue behaving as you were behaving. And that was about it. Correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So when you've realized that you needed to change, the person gets fed up with some situation, the person wants to change it. How did you start changing? You've tried traditional ways, I call them, right? The outside actions that you thought would remedy it. Did you?
I did. I actually, I did try therapy. I tried taking like antidepressants. I struggled with deciding if I was going to say this or not, but I did try to self-medicate. I drank heavily and I hid it really well. And no matter what, at the end of the day, none of it was ever really enough. It was kind of a Band-Aid, and it would cover it up for a minute. I would feel okay for that time. But it never really got to the root of the problem. And I don't know, there's really no other way to say it. It just was not enough. I needed something more.
Would it be safe for me to conclude that those outside actions, they were remedying or quote unquote curing the symptoms? Like you said, not the cause, but the symptoms, correct?
Right. For a moment.
Right. For a moment. If I don't feel good, I'm going to numb myself by drinking heavily because it feels good during that time, right?
Right.
Or I'm going into therapy and I will be talking about it, but after I leave the office, well, I feel good for a little bit, but then what, right?
Well, that was the thing that I learned. Like the therapy, like it was great, and if it works for anybody, go for it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is it helped me open up my heart, because no matter what, you can go to therapy, you can talk to your girlfriend, you can talk to the stranger at the coffee shop, but ultimately those are just words. You have to do the work. You have to dig deep in your soul and in your heart and just be honest with yourself, because you can take the medicine, you can drink the beer, you can, I don't know, go and vent to your girlfriend, but until you make the choice to physically start changing and start doing something that you haven't done, you're going to keep getting the same situation.
Exactly. And I believe you made a brilliant distinction. There is a mindset and there is a spiritual side.
Yes.
The mindset is when we are on the conscious level, making some changes and saying, I deserve this, I will talk about it, I will do whatever needs to be changed, but it's on the conscious level. It's conscious, it's thinking. When you need to go within and dig deep to change what's underlying there, it's actually an issue in the subconscious mind. It's not in the conscious mind, so it's very deep. And it's not really visible in the outside, right? So it is a spiritual approach, not the mindset. Is that correct? Do you agree?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So last question about the old. How did you feel exactly? What was the feeling? Where was it? Because long time ago, I remember the feeling, distinct feeling of dissatisfaction, and it was in my chest area. And I knew it's not enough. I'm in the right place, but I need to move forward with whatever that was. It was actually me teaching at the college at that time. So once I went into my own business, I became very satisfied, and that feeling disappeared. So what was your feeling inside that drove you to therapy, that drove you to drinking heavily or taking pills? What was the feeling? Can you name it?
Yes. So I feel like it started with me just not feeling well, like feeling like I was sick all the time and just completely drained. Like every day I would come home, I would go through the motions at work, and then I would come home and lay on my couch. And that lasted like literally for a couple of years. Like I was just going through the motions, just living life, trying to be the best mom I could, but not giving myself the love that I was giving everybody else. And I don't know, when I felt like I was sick, and then I felt tired. And I remember actually saying the words to a girl that was near me. I said, there just has to be something more. There has to be. Like I wasn't born to just do this. Like there's something more.
Wow, that's amazing. And now it's time to name the issue, to name the elephant in the room. So what was the issue that drove you into all the destructive actions and destructive behavior? What was it?
It came down to, I didn't have any self-worth. It sounds so simple, but it's so huge. I really thought that I deserved to be treated this way. I thought I deserved only this. I deserved people being ugly to me, people mistreating me, but I didn't. Like I was like all about self-awareness, being brutally honest with myself, taking 100% responsibility. That it was hard. It was hard to admit that I was the cause of the problem. We want to blame everybody else. We want to say, it's his fault, it's her fault, it's because of the situation I'm here. No, it was all because of me. Like I have to take 100% responsibility. I have to love it, free it, release it, but there's no way I'm going to grow until I'm honest with myself. And just loving myself and being kind. The most important part was my self-talk. I didn't realize how ugly I spoke to myself. But if I would have heard somebody speak to my sisters or my friends the way I was speaking to myself, I would have never allowed it. And again, it goes back to self-worth. Like I had to find that.
Right. The main first step that all women have to realize when they behave this way, or whatever that feeling is, they feel it. The first step is to take full responsibility, that you are the one, the cause of everything. Yes. I know because I teach it, of course, I've been teaching it for many years, and I had to experience it myself. So when you are not unaware, you continue behaving and nothing will change.
Absolutely.
Until you arrive to the moment when you take full responsibility, correct?
Yes. And just, I guess, getting rid of the victim mentality. Like, I'm not a victim. Like I'm 100% responsible for my life, and I'm responsible for how people treat me. I'm also responsible for how I act and react to people.
Did you feel being a victim before? Did you feel that feeling of victimhood?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think we all do in a sense, and we probably all do at one point in our life, or even each situation is different. But absolutely. And for a long time, I didn't realize I was doing it, but I was playing the victim. Like I wanted to sit and I was very good at manipulating the situation. I could make people feel sorry for me. It was almost a gift. I was like, oh, feel sorry for me. And I did it in a very sweet way. But really my heart wasn't in the right place whenever I was doing that. And I was just lying to myself. I was, I was telling myself what I wanted to believe because it made me feel better, but I wasn't growing. I was staying in the same spot, and I just kept getting the same situation over and over. And again, I would just replay the victim.
Exactly.
And for a moment, I guess it sounds weird to say it, but I enjoyed it because I enjoyed people, I guess, feeling sorry for me. But again, it goes back to getting attention. So
Exactly.
whenever they're feeling sorry for me, I'm getting attention and I'm getting their energy. They're focusing on me and, oh, poor Stephanie. No, it shouldn't be that way.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing because I usually say victim energy is addictive. You don't like it, but yet you're comfortable in it and you are addicted to it. You want more and more of that. Poor me, poor me. Because
Yes.
when you poor me, you get attention. You're right. You get attention,
Yes.
and people give their energy to you to sustain that victimhood state.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting to watch whenever you become self-aware, you start
Right.
noticing how people will react differently to you. Whenever you stop playing the victim and you start taking responsibility, even something so simple as, just for example, at work, say you make a mistake on something, but instead of going to your boss or to a supervisor and saying, this wouldn't have happened if such and such would have done this. If you go to them and you say, look, I messed up. Here's what I have done to fix it, but I want you to be aware. It's very interesting to watch the level of respect rise. And then they start to trust you and you start building that relationship and you start building trustworthiness. And that's what we all want.
Exactly. That's an excellent example. You can apply, and we should apply not only the responsibility, not only for the issue, but also generally in life, because responsibility is the main thing. We are the creators of our life.
Right, exactly. And we are responsible for our own happiness. It's such a simple little phrase. But if somebody makes you mad, you choose if you're happy or you're upset about it. And if you decide to give that situation your energy and you decide to let it drain you, that's on nobody but you, sister.
This is the second step you just mentioned. And the second step is make a choice. Do you want to stay in a victimhood state or you want to change and take responsibility? So the first step was to realize that you are responsible. And the second step is to make the choice, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sorry if I skipped ahead.
Oh, no. You did perfectly. You're absolutely right on target. I'm admiring it and enjoying it because you're saying, first of all, you're sharing your life, and I am pinpointing the steps for our viewers and listeners to follow if they decide to. And now we can talk about the internal steps when you finally went inside. What did you do? How to handle it? How did you change your internal issue?
I know a few things that I started trying to do was I was journaling and I was meditating. I would shut off the radio in my car on the way to work. And those were the times that I had the deepest conversations with God, with myself, and just fully being honest. It was just really raw. And that's where I did a lot of my work, my spiritual journey. It was a little awkward at first, but I had to change something. And usually I would fill up my time and space with anything else rather than focusing on the issue at hand. So I was constantly distracting myself. And once I started journaling, it was easier as the time went on. And it was a lot easier for me to be honest because I knew, nobody else was here. So I knew I was the only one reading it. And what harm was it going to do? So the more I did it, the easier it got. It just kind of flowed. And I realized I would go back and read my journaling, and in it, those days, whenever I would read it, I would find an answer for whatever other issue I was looking for. I just didn't realize that it was there the whole time.
Let's dissect it. You were journaling. What were you saying? What not exact words, but what exactly? Because some people could journal what happened today and that's about it. What exactly did you have to journal about to do the healing inside?
Well, first of all, I just started off just being honest with myself, like writing down what my actual issue was. The fact that I was constantly trying to get attention. And what I did was I was asking myself, like, why do I need attention? And I kept coming back to that why question. Why? I would put something down, but then that voice is like, why? Okay, well, why? And it would tick me off. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, why do I have to, I already wrote it. Why do I have to know more? But I wanted to know. And
did you find the answer?
I think I'm still working on it. Like, I feel like I've gotten to a much better place, but I'm still me, and I'm human. So I still have things that I'm working on. I mean, at one point I chose to kind of be a hermit, and I shut everybody out. And that was interesting. And it was definitely a different journey. You know me, so you know how I love people. So it was very different for me. But I do think I'm still changing. I'm still asking why, because if I stop asking why, I'm going to quit growing. And yes, I'm proud of where I am now, but I want to go further. I want more. Just like I think back to the day that I said that to my friend, there has to be more. I know there's more, and I want to know why. I want to know more.
Well, why? Remember you mentioned the word queen, because you were wanting attention of men and people in general, and just whatever circumstances you wanted that attention desperately, because you were feeling love. Because when people give you attention, it's usually if it's a positive attention, they give you love, whatever that
Right.
is, in whatever form, because then you feel accepted, right? And so when you constantly seek that attention, you are seeking acceptance.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So here is why there is no acceptance inside.
And that's hard. That's hard to hear. It's hard to admit. It's hard to think that I would let everybody accept and love my friends, my sisters, my coworkers, but why not me? Why not me? I deserve that. I deserve to accept myself. I accept everybody else for who they are and how they are. Why shouldn't I give myself that love?
So, and then when we don't accept ourselves, we judge ourselves. Or
Right.
maybe first we judge ourselves and then we don't accept ourselves. So it's actually inside, there is no love for yourself, no acceptance, and perhaps no forgiveness. Does
Right.
that sound right?
Absolutely.
For whatever it is inside, we've been living many lifetimes, many past lives. We've been on this earth for a long time, and all kinds of stuff that we have done on the path, it's stored, the memories are stored in the subconscious mind. So the issue doesn't come from this lifetime. Issue usually we carry it from lifetime to lifetime. Right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's just like, saying even in this lifetime, if you're going to use that example, whenever I was saying that I was seeking out attention, and it got down to me realizing that I was the common denominator, and the faces and names changed, but it was the same thing over and over. And it's the same as in our past lives. Like, you're going to bring it with you, and you're going to bring it with you even in relationships. So if you have trust issues, if you have self-worth issues, whatever it is that you're not accepting and loving about yourself, you're going to bring that into the next situation, into your next friendship, your next relationship, your next marriage. You're going to bring that because that's who you are. So until you're really honest with who you are and get down and do the work, you're going to keep attracting it.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so you got first you were journaling to be honest with yourself to see what's there. Then you were what else were you doing? Meditating, you said?
Right. And then I also, my other answer was, I would just shut off the radio in the
Mm-hmm.
car.
Mm-hmm. By the way, to get practical tips and awareness shifting activities pertaining to this interview, go to radiantmastery.com/practice to access your complimentary companion podcast practice. And when you shut off the radio, you said you were raw with yourself. You were honest with yourself. What were you doing? Were you praying? Were you talking to yourself? Were you talking to God? What exactly was happening?
I know this is going to be hard to believe, but I was
It's
just
okay.
talking
It's
out
your
loud.
story. It's your story. It's how you
Well, you
deal
know
with
me,
it.
so you know that I talk a lot. And I would just, it was very uncomfortable at first and it felt very unnatural, but I just started talking out loud to myself. I started just saying what was on my mind, and I was talking to God. I was talking to myself, just trying to just make every day a little bit better.
That's right.
Really, right then and there in that moment, I was just realizing as I'm speaking out and talking to myself the way that I would a friend, the answers were already there. They were already in my heart and soul. I just had to be kind of quiet for a minute. And that part was the biggest challenge for me, was even though as I first started, I would shut off the radio and I would just start talking. But I learned through a great friend of mine that after you do that, you should also be quiet and listen and take it in. So it was a practice that I started doing, and I would say my prayers, I would talk to myself, I would, just put out whatever situation was going on. But instead of immediately turning on the radio or calling somebody, because I also do that a lot, I just quit. And I just sat there and I would meditate and drive, because it's pretty much what you're doing whenever you're driving anyway. But it's the perfect moment because you're so focused on the road that you're not thinking about other stuff. You're not thinking about what you need to get at the grocery store or what somebody said to you that hurt your feelings. You're focusing on the issue at hand and you're focusing on you. But one other step that I did is I got a book that my dear friend Irina wrote. It's called The Keys to Freedom. And I love this book. I actually have it beside my bedside and I have read it over and over. There's days that I'll pick up the book and I open it to just a certain page. And at that moment, it's the perfect message. The title alone has meant so much and it has had so much meaning in my life. I just think about all the keys that pass through my hand that open doors. It's very, very neat. Like you'll see a key and to me that's a message, like I'm on my right path. And there's very few books in this world that I absolutely love. And I do love this book. It has completely changed my outlook on life. And the few things that really, really stood out to me is there are certain objects that really, really give me a message. And a lot of them are numbers. So there's certain numbers that always stand out to me. The number 3, the number 1, the number 7, but there's also feathers. And every time I see a feather, I just know that it is a blessing from God. Like it's telling me I'm on my right path. And that's one thing. It may not be the same words, word for word, the way that you said it in the book, but that's how I interpret it. And I always focus on the white feathers because to me, the white is the light and it's happy, it's joyful. And it also helps me know that right in that time, whenever I see those white feathers, it's amazing. Like I've had them stuck on my back and I have no feather, but to me, it was not only a message from God, but it was a message from Irina, and it stemmed from her book. Like I love this book. And then the other
And
thing
Irina
is,
was saying that you're growing the wings like an angel.
yes.
That's why feathers are coming out of your back, because you're growing wings.
I love it, but it's so funny. I've had it happen to me a couple of times. Whenever I went into my office, I had little white feathers stuck to the back of my sweater, and I'm like, where did these feathers come from? But that's a great way to look at it. I'm growing wings. I'll take it. But like really, I hope that you find it in your heart that it's important to you, because I do love this. Like, if you guys get a chance, you should go pick it up. I've given it.
Please give the title of the book.
It's called The Keys to Freedom: The Guide to Personal Power, and it's by Miss Irina Baker.
And you mentioned you give this book, or you told about this book to other people, right?
I have. My cat just decided to join the video.
I love it.
Say hi, Oliver.
Look at this. Oh.
I have. And it's so neat because so many people are unaware of their surroundings. And usually it always gives me the opportunity to tell people about your book whenever I see a feather. And like, I always tell them, like, you taught me this, and you really did. It gave me new eyes to see the world. And I thank you for that forever. Like, I love it.
I'm so glad the book is very useful and helpful to you, and you're enjoying it. I'm very, very happy about it.
I am. Whenever I moved, I had it in a box, and I took it out, and it has stayed on my nightstand the whole time. So every time that, like, I need a message or I just get that pull, I always open it up, and it's always to the perfect page. It's very, I love it.
I usually say, we can't make this stuff up.
It's true. We can't. We can't. And it's just so neat to me, because those few books that are meant for me, because I know that you have some that are meant for you. We've talked about a few of them. But there's some that whenever you're reading it, and this is one of those books, I remember one day I opened up the pages to just a certain page, and I swear to you, there was like a light shining out. So to me, it was like the most beautiful message, letting me know that, like, the work I'm doing on myself, I'm on the right path, and I have all the tools around me. I just have to choose to use them.
That's right.
So I do think that this has been a great tool to work on myself internally. It, I mean, yes, it's something physical, but it's also something that I can't unlearn the things that I've learned.
Well, and Keys to Freedom, why the title came to me, it came as a download from Divine. Keys to Freedom, the Guide to Personal Power. It's actually about restoring your self-worth and self-loving, self-love, self-acceptance. So the freedom is when you accept yourself in all respects, in all areas, subconsciously, deep inside, on a spiritual level, you become free. You get your power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that.
To hear more inspiring stories and practical tips on overcoming your challenges by going within and connecting with your divine power, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Talking about the power, and I believe your cat, Oliver, came to remind me to ask you about power. So what's your definition of power?
Well, it sounds very strange, and I would have answered this much differently a couple of years ago, or maybe even a few months ago. But to me, power is absolutely nothing to do with control. Like, nothing. Once you start trusting, and I'm not talking just trusting people, I'm talking about trusting yourself.
Right.
That's whenever you get control. Because once you trust yourself and you know that your intentions are right, that your heart is right, that your head is right, that's whenever you're going to be on the right path. And yes, you are going to have days that you teeter-totter, because we're human and we're going to go through that. But to me, I feel like my definition of power is kind of letting go of control.
That's right. Are you a woman of power?
I don't really think about it. It's not something that's like, I guess because a lot of people think about power. I've always had a bad feeling towards it, like it was an ugly feeling, but now I feel like it's more love. So in that sense, yes, I do think I'm a powerful woman.
I love the moment when I ask unexpectedly, because usually nobody expects that I would ask this question, are you a woman of power? And women, they have to be really careful to distinguish between that worldly power, as I call it,
Yes.
when it's money, success, it's huge, like you said, control, the worldly, the one that money gives you, or the status in society gives you. So women usually do not want to subscribe to that power. So some of them cringe even, they don't want to be viewed as such. And when the woman talks about or thinks about the power as internal power, the power of love. So to me, the definition of power is love, and love is divine presence. It's divine presence that we are connected to. When I say I'm a woman of power, to me, that means I'm connected to my divine core, to love. I'm a woman of love in the highest sense, meaning connected to the divine. So it's very interesting when you had that process to go through to say, okay, I am not
Yes.
about that worldly power, but yes, I want to accept that power in me that is love. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, this guy has control. He doesn't even like me that much usually. And for some reason today, he wants to be a star.
And we're talking about the cat. The cat, for
Yes.
listeners, for the podcast listeners, it's a cat that came to visit. Of course, because we're talking about feline, right? The female power, the female energy that right now it's the topic of healing the female energy inside. And everybody, both men and women, have that female energy inside that needs to be healed, that needs to restore its self-worth and the status, the royal status of the queen. And that's what
Yes.
you mentioned before, the queen. The queen is not, the queen is born the queen. She knows, she from the birth, she knows she's royal of high self-worth, right? And so
Right.
that's what we have to achieve, women have to achieve, that feeling inside. I accept myself. I am the queen.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I am the queen.
That's right. And by the way, Steph, you are awesome.
And you are awesome.
And everybody's awesome too. We are awesome. Yay.
I love it.
I love it too. And on this happy note, right now, by the way, on my clock is 11:11, which is, to me, it's the approval from the divine presence. So this is amazing, because I was going to finish this interview and on such, talking about numbers, on such a positive note. I am a woman of power, helping women to awaken to and connect to the inner divine power. Thank you so much, Steph. Thank you so much for watching and listening. And until we meet again, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Remember to get practical tips and awareness shifting activities pertaining to this interview, go to radiantmastery.com/practice to access your complimentary companion podcast practice. To hear more inspiring stories and practical tips on overcoming your challenges by going within and connecting with your divine power, make sure to subscribe to this channel.